Welcome to the Pilot Boys podcast. It is playoff season. Interesting finals, Western and Eastern Conference finals. Completely unpredictable with the 7 and number 8 seed in them. But we're going to be talking all things NBA today on today's episode. We got 4 teams left standing. A lot of other storylines going on in the NBA, including John Morant trying to determine if he wants to be a gangster or a basketball player. Um, it's a deep internal struggle that man is facing right now, along with all of the playoff storylines, including what happened last night or yesterday afternoon on Mother's Day with the Celtics and Sixers. Let's start there with the Celtics and Sixers series. Series went to 7 games, obviously, but the storyline was the same as it always is. The Celtics own the Sixers. Doc Rivers can't get it done in closeout games. 2 more opportunities in this series with Game 6 and Game 7, and playoff Harden uh, reared his ugly head as well. Pretty much everything that could possibly go wrong for the Sixers went wrong in this game. It was over by the third quarter. Jason Tatum had the greatest Game 7 finals, uh, Game 7 performance of all time, topping Steph Curry's performance by 1 point earlier in this playoff series. But let's talk about this series first. Let's talk about the Celtics. If you were really evaluating this series, I mean, I think you guys would agree that the Celtics on paper were supposed to win this series probably in less than 7 games, but it didn't seem like the Celtics really became the Celtics until that fourth quarter of Game 6, and that carried over to Game 7, and they blew the Sixers out in not even competitive fashion.
Yeah, man.
It
I mean, I
was
agree. I agree completely. Like, I think the big thing was with the Celtics. Would they wake up? Would they not wake up? Right. And with the Sixers, I think we should get to the Sixers in a second. But with the Celtics, it was nice to see Jason Tatum show up. He had like not a lot of like his level type of performances in a while, and I think there was whatever it took to get him going. I'm glad he's going now because I think it's going to carry through this entire next series that they're about to play. I thought overall that we saw we saw the team mesh and gel in the same kind of way we've seen them do it in runs in the past, and so it makes it pretty convincing to me that the team we're probably going to see in the finals on that side. But I do want to address the Doc Rivers thing too. Like I cannot fathom like and maybe they overperformed here, right? But I cannot fathom how his teams are so consistent at giving up leads. Like I don't know what is going on. And one thing I didn't realize, which I was researching about, is that in his Boston championship win, he actually had Tom Thibodeau as an assistant coach. And I didn't know that. And it really makes me question whether he's even a good coach at all.
I mean he had all the help he could possibly need that season to win, you know? And it's really interesting cuz ever since I've seen him being a coach, I've only really saw him lose. Like he's fumbled the bag almost every time I've watched him.
Yeah, honestly,
And
with
yeah,
good
that's
teams.
like yeah, with really well built teams. And I don't know how he keeps fumbling the bag, but it has definitely has something to do with his coaching because the talent is definitely there on all those teams. Even on this team, I mean, they had Embiid, they had Harden. I don't know, like
How do you
they
go out
actually
in a game seven, those two guys, with a
yeah
total of like
yeah.
24 points between the two of them? Like if
He
it's
just wasn't
any
able to
other
make the changes.
no, any other star is going to go out shooting like 35 shots like Tatum shot. You know what I'm saying? And these guys shot like
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
Embiid was like 5 for 14.
I mean, the game was over in the
yeah.
third quarter.
Embiid,
I mean, you can never fault Embiid for his effort, because even when he's not shooting, uh, he's their most impactful player on defense. You didn't sense that he was a guy that was quitting on the court, but by the time the third quarter started and they got up 30 points, it was like, what the hell was he going to do? They were going
Right.
to have to shoot threes. Um, but, Doc Rivers and James Harden are like essentially the coaches and players version of each other, because when it comes to important, valuable games, and the reason that I think a lot of folks are hard on James Harden is because he is so amazingly good in every game that doesn't mean anything. But then the moment that a game is meaningful, he can't perform. And I think that's very similar for Doc Rivers. His teams always get there, right? He gets to the
Yeah.
point where his teams are in position to eliminate another team or make the finals, but he doesn't know how to perform in big moments or coach in big games that really matter. And I think the same is true if you look at James Harden's career, very, very similar. I mean, the Rockets needed him to perform in one game when Chris Paul went out. They were up 3-1, I believe, on the Warriors, or 3-2. I can't remember. But they literally needed to get one game, and they couldn't get it with the Chris Paul injury. Same thing in OKC when they played the Heat. He just completely disappeared in that finals. Like it's a pattern now. And again, it goes back to the Sixers and Daryl Morey having this obsession with James Harden, um, that is quite inexplicable when you say that this is a guy that only evaluates teams on analytics. He got rid of Jimmy Butler, chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. I don't know if you guys saw the clip going around, of Jimmy Butler leaving game and series last year when the Heat took out the Sixers. He's saying, literally audibly saying, "You guys chose Tobias Harris over me."
Yeah, that clip is hilarious. He he's just like, how could you do that? Like, and
Yeah,
I agree. How
and
could
that's
you?
and that's the issue that I think a lot of folks and Jimmy Butlers and others have with guys like Daryl Morey. Yeah, you can evaluate analytics all you want, but if you don't understand psychology and heart, and that's the thing, Morey's not really a guy that understands that aspect of it. The heart and spirit is just as important as what you fill the stat line with. And he consistently brings this guy around who, in moments that matter, doesn't have the heart, to do what he needs to do, like Jason Tatum did in game 6, having a terrible game, but knew his team needed him and was able to turn it on and close the game out. James Harden just doesn't have that. And at this point, it's like the guy's made $500 million or so in the NBA. So this isn't just being hard on him; it's just being honestly evaluating, saying he's not worth the price of admission as an elite player.
Yeah, I mean, I think Philly in general, it's a team that even when they won those games, you could see that they still weren't even playing to their potential as a team. It just feels like the culture there is bad. Doesn't really feel like there's buy-in to get to that higher level. I think everyone just has to want to win for each other. That's the interesting thing with the Celtics is that this core has been together for so long. They're they're used to winning together. They haven't won the whole thing yet, but they've had really really great and very consistent playoff performance with very deep runs consistently. And this core, especially Tatum and Brown, have experienced so many of those LeBron runs. Like they've really like been challenged by the best of them in each of those playoff runs. So I think if there was a core from the East that is ready to be championship caliber, it's got to be the Celtics. But I think the Sixers, like, we've never even seen them like play their best and then lose. And like at that point, can you really even learn anything as an organization? It's always some injury or some this thing or that thing, or this year just like lack of heart maybe or whatever that was at the end of that game. Like,
It's It's personnel decisions, right? Because that's the thing about being the GM of an organization is that the whole trust the process thing has gone terribly wrong for them, right? Like, the picks that they got, the players that they chose, the players that they passed up, the decisions they've made with free agency, right? Like, you can study players like Ben Simmons. It's not hard to sense that that guy doesn't have heart. It's not hard to um, evaluate Tobias Harris and say he's a really good player, but is he a dog? Probably not. You know, and the same with James Harden. Like, the guy is a very quiet player. He's a great player. I'm not going to take away from his talent, but I wouldn't want him on my team if I was in trying to win a championship. That's not the guy that I want on my team. You
Right.
know,
He just doesn't have that like same drive. I mean, like you see him, right? Like he's just like trapping out in like a strip club after like a game and like spending his time rather than like training and getting into form. He's just like out here fucking around. And I mean, that is like telltale signs of someone who's not going to carry you to get a chip, you know? Like that person's probably not going to get you there if they're not putting their head down and actually like going at it. And I don't see him. I mean, obviously he practices, but like I just don't see him having the same heart as like someone like Kobe or someone like Jordan or anyone who's actually like won a chip, you
Yeah,
know?
totally.
Like I just
And
don't
I
see
mean,
it from Harden.
hmm and just taking it forward into the series against the Heat, though, I think the Celtics definitely cannot drop their guard at all because the Heat, despite being super banged up in this most recent round, if you look at the team that they were in the first round when they were all healthy, specifically Jimmy Butler, who's had probably the biggest change in what his ability on the floor has been from the first round to the second round. If you get a healthy Jimmy Butler and a few of these guys are a little less banged up after their last series, the Celtics are really going to have to be concerned because the Heat are a team that can get really streaky, and if you let them, get one of these first couple games and build some momentum off of it, I think it could easily take this to a 7 game series.
yeah, the only way the Boston Celtics lose is if the Boston Celtics beat themselves. This series should not be very competitive. I think it should be over before seven, probably in five or six. The NBA needs its rating, so it'll probably be six. But it's just a bad matchup for this Heat team. But there are a couple X factors that could help them out. One is the coaching experience and differential between Spoelstra um, and Missoula. Um, that's one thing that could hurt. And then the other X factor being Jimmy Butler. Just going Jimmy Butler on on the series consistently, but it seems like he's dealing with a little bit of an injury.
The
The
coaching
supporting
is a
cast,
great call out there, V. Like
yeah,
definitely like Spolstra is a great coach who's not recognized enough for how great of a coach he is compared to a first year coach, right? In Missoula.
yeah. And then the Celtics history, right? They've been the best team in the East in terms of talent for several years now. They got to the finals finally last year, but in the finals they didn't show up. And that's the same thing that we're seeing in this playoffs is it's like none of these series should have gone as long as they did, but you see the Celtics for periods of games just kind of like hitting cruise control, giving up big
Right.
leads, you know,
Right.
having games in hand and the game just going away. Like that, to your point, Partha, that's how they could lose this series is if they beat themselves and if the Heat make the adjustments from game to game and Missoula doesn't make the necessary in-game adjustments. That's the big difference between great coaches and good and average coaches. It's not everybody can make adjustments between games when you look back the game before, but can you see a team doing something in the first half and in the second half be able to adjust and shut that down.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Right.
if you guys are looking at this series, what are your predictions on how it'll play out?
Um, when I look at the Celtics and the Heat, I honestly think that the Celtics have it in the bag, as V and you were talking about. I definitely think that Jimmy Butler is a big factor in all of this, and if he can turn up the Heat, like he can actually like make a huge difference in the series, I think. But I really don't believe that he has the ability by himself to defeat the Celtics. And I do think that it's just like the Celtics screwing themselves over if they do lose this series. But in my head, I see the Celtics winning in like 5. I see the Heat getting a game on them, but I do see the Celtics just getting the dub. Maybe if they wanted to milk it, as you said, I don't know, 6, but yeah, it's gonna be the Celtics for sure. And then yeah, yeah,
You have and you have
Celtics.
Yeah.
you already said Celtics in 6v. You said in
Yeah,
5 or
I mean,
6.
my heart is always with Jimmy buckets.
Yeah, yeah,
It's always good. Will forever be with Jimmy buckets. But
all
I just
love.
I just don't see the difference between this series and the prior two series is that in the Buck series, Budenholzer got fired because he never put Giannis on Jimmy Butler. In this series, Jimmy Butler is going to have to defend Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum throughout the game. And then on the flip side, the Celtics can throw multiple defenders. They can throw Tatum at him. They can throw Brown at him. They can throw Smart
Smart.
at him. They can throw Brogdon at
Right.
him. So they can give him multiple looks and really exhaust him. And that's the fear here is who are the others, right? Bam
Yeah,
Adebayo isn't a guy that can really create a shot for himself. And the other guys are playing at a amazing level and they're playing great team basketball. But you're facing a team that's just got too much talent.
Yeah. I agree with you
right.
And
guys.
And it's just Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you guys in general. I think this Boston team is so freaking talented. I thought they should have won it the last couple years too, and was disappointed they didn't. Um, but because I think that Jimmy is tapped into some different type of shit this year, I'm gonna go Heat in 7. Keep things interesting on the pod here.
Ooh.
I think that if we see the Celtics make that step up and really perform at the level we think they can, this will be the start of a bunch of Celtics championships. But I'm not sure if that point is upon us yet. So that's my pick. But on the West, it's a pretty interesting and situation in that it's a repeat of the bubble, right? This is the exact same thing as
Right.
2020.
This is the
So
exact same thing.
that's my other kind of like you guys have there's one conspiracy theory, right? Lakers Celtics, but the other one is what if it's like kind of just a weird bubble coincidence type of year? What if it's just going to be like a repeat of that in a sense? The
To
West is very different
solidify.
though. Yeah, this Denver team is
Right.
very different than the bubble Denver team. You've got Michael Porter Jr. has gotten a lot better. You've got Aaron Gordon on that team now. Bruce Brown, who was on the Nets and has come over and found a hugely impactful role off the bench. This Nuggets team is no joke. Jokic obviously is playing at an insane level, and I was very much about Joel Embiid getting MVP, but after this like playoffs, I'm just like like Jokic is an infinitely superior player to Joel Embiid, and it's not even close. And it's just his basketball IQ. It's the way he moves the ball around the floor. It's the ease at which he does it. His shooting ability. He stretches the floor so well. And then Denver's front office has just done an incredible job building to his talents. Like I bet LeBron has been watching this and is just like, this is what I always wish someone had done around me. And I think it's brilliant. Like I think they've perfectly put the team together. The Lakers are kind of like a ragtag bunch of misfits, all kind of around a common goal, and that makes me want to root for them because they're like the underdog team. They're like the common. the common man, this kind of slapped together last minute, a bunch of little like, yeah, we all love D'Lo because he played at Ohio State. We love LeBron because he's from Ohio. We love AD because he wears lasso socks. You know what I'm saying? Like we got our people in this group that we root for, and I that just makes me love the Lakers, and I think they've got like kind of an energy about them. I want to see LeBron like really play some chess this time around. I think that's what this series is going to be about. But I think talent wise, like Denver definitely has the advantage, and it's going to come down to schematics like it did against the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, literally, this is the worst possible matchup that the Lakers could face, because of how Denver's team is made up. One guy you didn't mention that was on the other team that is on the Nuggets this season is Kentavious Caldwell Pope, who is playing extremely well, has always been a great defensive player, but has also improved quite a bit offensively. Um,
And he
but
was on
literally,
LA in the bubble year.
Yeah,
yeah, he
he was
was.
in he was on the
He
Lakers.
just
Yeah,
switched
But
sides this
you,
time.
if you look at the matchup, there's nobody that the Lakers can throw at Gordon. There's nobody that they can throw at Michael Porter Jr. D'Lo is not a strong defender. Um, Austin Reeves is probably going to get bodied by whoever he's guarding
Well,
um,
he's gonna have
in
to
this
have Jamal
series.
Murray. Like
And
that's the
and
only
then
matchup.
and then LeBron is going to have to
it's
play
gonna
a
be a
lot of
tough one
four.
for him.
He's going to have to play a lot of four power forward in this series. It doesn't seem like he's optimum health either. AD could get hurt, any moment. As we've seen, that's a scary proposition, especially the fact that he's going to have to defend Jokic the majority of the game. He's not going to be able to do what he did against Golden State, which was essentially serve as a safety blanket behind all of the wing defenders whenever they got beat. AD was there to save the day. His attention is not. They're not going to be able
Yeah,
to roll
he
out that
can't
type of
compare.
defense.
Right, he
Yeah,
just can't
he can't
compare
be a
to
rover.
Jokic. Right,
Yeah,
the
yeah, he
triple
can't
double
rope.
machine. Like this dude, like he's that big, and he just puts up triple doubles like it's no one's business, scoring like 50, 10, and 10, or like 50, 15, and like 13. This dude is like ridiculous. I remember I had him in fantasy like 2 or 3 years ago, and had the highest points every time, beat all my friends just because I had Jokic. He was just so good. He was just too good until the
Yeah,
end when he couldn't push to the playoffs. But that
yeah,
was that
that's
was
the
back
thing.
then.
When you're playing defense against a guy like that, and you're also expected to be the best offensive player on your team, it's a huge challenge. And I just don't see the Lakers winning this series. It's been a great run for them, but this again is a series. Again, there were one team. Obviously, you never want to underestimate LeBron, but this is a team, the Nuggets, who have also kind of gone through the same process as the Celtics have for the last 5, 6 years, where the team has always been one of the best teams. But it seems like this is the year that they are the best team in the West. They've shown it through the first two rounds. They have an opportunity to show it again. Um, we'll see how the officiating plays out, because if the officials call fouls on the Nuggets the way that they were calling them on the Warriors, then I think the Lakers definitely have a shot. But absent that, I mean, you don't see the matchup, because the Lakers aren't a great shooting team. They're not a great transition defense team. Again, like you said, it's been great, but again, they've only played like 30 games together, probably including the playoffs. It's a Herculean task for them to beat this team. Now, with that said, and you guys always know this, the Nuggets choke or show their inexperience. Jamal Murray doesn't play like Bubble Murray. Michael Porter shows his inexperience. You know, then the Lakers have a shot. That's what this is
You
gonna.
know,
That's their only shot, is the fact that they have so much more experience and championship pedigree than this team.
I actually kind of see it happening that way. I'm a big LeBron fan, but past that, I just think that this year is just the Lakers' year. It's just LeBron's year. Not only do I think that, but I just see it being a Lakers Celtics throwback as the conspiracies kind of state. Like I can see the officiating being a little edgy here and there, just like the Warriors. I can see it happening to the Nuggets. And then if they do end up choking on top of a little bit of rigged like refing, then it's just going to be difficult. And
Well,
I
I'd
can see
say
the Lakers winning and taking it in the Lakers Celtics finals. I can definitely see that.
yeah, I think one of the interesting things with the Lakers is if they were to do a small ball lineup like Miami's team did against the Spurs those many years in a row, and if they were to do it successfully, I saw some footage of LeBron getting up a ton of threes with Austin Reeves, and it just reminded me of how you can sometimes use small ball the same way the Warriors have to keep bigs off the floor and to be able to, you have AD who's not maybe the best 3-point shooter but can stretch and can make a corner three from time to time. Jokic obviously being a better shooter. I don't know. I see some possibility. Denver also doesn't have as deep of shooting threats as the Warriors, so it keeps AD closer to the paint. A lot of the loads on him for defense, however, a lot of the loads on him, period. And I think like to you, both of you guys have called this out, quite well. That that is the thing that's going to be really challenging. Does he get into foul trouble early? What does that look like in these games? Do the Lakers stay disciplined, and then do their supporting talent show up? Does D'Lo have one of 7 games that he's like great for? Or is he going to be, great for several of them? And that will that be in sync with the other teammates as well? So it's going to be challenging, I think, for the Lakers if they want to win it. My heart wants obviously Lakers Heat, but my brain says Denver is by far the best team in the West, and if they have that ability to like accept their greatness and like actually want to win, they're going to win. If those players, like you guys are saying, are not at that point yet mentally, they're not going to win this series. But it's 100% theirs to lose, just like it is Boston's. And if both teams make that step up, I would love to see Denver play Boston in the finals because it would be physical. Everyone would be super talented. I think they have the two best rosters in the NBA in terms of the right type of players for today's play style. It would be a great series. It'd be a physical series. It'd be a tough one. So to me, that's probably the best product that they would put on the field. But the fans probably, would pay the most for the Lakers Celtics.
I mean,
Yeah.
it would drive the best TV ratings. One other factor that needs to be mentioned is that 4 of these games are going to be in Denver at altitude as well. We're talking about a veteran uh, kind of injury. LeBron is pretty long in the tooth. AD as well has been out for stretches of the season. Conditioning may play a factor in this series as well because anytime you have to go from altitude um, to non-altitude, um, it's a challenge, especially over the course of a series and the travel that's involved. It does become a challenge. You guys know this anytime you go to altitude places, just even walking. You know what I mean? That you feel the difference. These are obviously super well conditioned athletes, but that is going to be a factor in this series as well.
Yeah, they still feel it just like we do. That's the reality. They're not robots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean
So who do you?
it's gonna be great. Yeah, I'll start out with calls. I got Denver and 7 on this one.
You know, I like definitely have to agree with your take, but it's just not in the script. So I'm gonna have to go Lakers in 7.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
I can't. I
I hope
can't.
so too.
I can't make decisions on inexplicable variables that are beyond my control. So I've got the Nuggets in 6.
All right.
I'll take
I
that
mean,
on me. I'll take that on me. I'll take
I
that
think we
call.
have some good picks here. Like overall, this year's playoffs has been maybe not like no one's really been like that talented. Overall, there's been a couple injuries that have kind of hampered teams, but it's interesting. Like, there's no real clear best team. There's no real clear winner. It's been pretty fascinating. Let's also mention while we're all on, let's talk about Ja, who was shown in his friend's Instagram live flashing a gun
Oh my God.
in a car
What is this?
to
The second and third time? Like, did
yeah,
that
I
just
think it's
happen
like
in 2 days?
the second time.
Was there like,
And no, it's the same one. You're thinking of one thing. But
okay, okay, got you, got you.
obviously, like, it's tough because he's such a talented player. You want to see him, like, he's in a position where the kids love him. Like, the gritty is a huge thing because of him. Like, he's a leader for a lot of young people and an inspiring figure. He's the underdog. You love his story. You love seeing him come up. He's got an amazing style of play that you want to watch. You want to consume it. And it's like, at the same time, like, it's not even the fact that he's holding a gun. Like, that's the thing to me about the situation is, like, with all the shootings, with all the things that are going on, like, I think it's more about the fact that he's using a gun unsafely in the way he's demonstrating it. And that's not the example
And
to be setting visually in front of children that are looking up to you. And I just think, like, that to me is like the disappointing thing is, like, as a fan, like, I don't really care much about the NBA's brand or all the dollars involved in this. I care more about, like, what are we showing all these kids that are watching these players and trying to be like them that you're supposed to do when you found success? Because this is not it. Like, you're not supposed to become more violent, become more paranoid. Like, you're supposed to enjoy your life and enjoy the pleasures of life, and do the healing and do the work you need to do on yourself. And I think it's obvious, like, he's a kid, but at the same time, you would hope that the folks around him who are profiting off of his success are taking the time to actually make sure that they're listening to what's going on with him and supporting him through his journey so that he's able to stay on this incredible path that's laid out for him.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I think he heard J. Cole say, "I'm John Morant. I'm on my Grizzly," and felt like he needed to represent a certain character. Um, and I think also, like, being in this town like Memphis, everybody knows how violent the city is. Some of this, if you are going to be out, you are going to be around in Memphis. You do need to surround yourself and protect yourself at all times. Now, the way that you take on that protection um, needs to be different, and then also who you surround yourself. Because I'm hearing a lot of stories and about the guy who's recording this video, who recorded the first video, is also the guy who got banned from the Memphis Grizzlies arena because he came on the court trying to fight some Pacers players, supposedly pointed a red dot laser beam from a gun at the Pacers team bus and has been banned. But he's the same guy in this video. And so now you can say, but he's not the guy brandishing a gun, though. It's John Morant. So Ja can't just say, we can't just dismiss it and say, you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people. This is a John Morant issue. You are ultimately accountable for your own life and your own decisions. And when you have the most to lose, you have to be the most careful. And it seems like he is the most reckless despite having the most to lose. And I think it's well within the NBA's rights and the Memphis Grizzlies' rights to say, hey, this isn't what we want to represent the Memphis Grizzlies. We represent the whole entire city. We represent the community. There's a lot of violence in this city. We can't have our basketball players do this. Doesn't matter that he was in illegal to carry state. Nothing he did was illegal. But it's the, like you said, part of the way that he's brandishing the gun, the recklessness, and then the consistent promotion of this lifestyle that he didn't even live. This isn't how he grew up.
Right.
This
He
isn't
went to a private school.
and
Like,
this
yeah, and he's
it
glorifying like him and his gun as if he like does something with it other than like uses it to protect himself. And that's kind of where it gets me, cuz like it's like yeah, you use it to protect yourself, but like at the same time why would you just wave it around like that? But it also goes with the whole situation of like who do you surround yourself with? But in no means is what he did correct. But at the same time, when you have bad friends, you got to be looking out for yourself as well, because that dude definitely isn't a good influence. It seems on him. I mean, he was the one who, as V said, like pointed the gun at the Pacers players. That's kind of ridiculous. And he's the same dude now exposing him basically, right? Like he's exposing
yeah.
Ja because he has a lot to lose and this dude has nothing to lose. So it's really interesting because he should definitely understand that he has a lot to lose. And when you have a lot to lose, like you actually got to be on your shit. Like you can't be fucking around at the end of the day. It doesn't matter who you're surrounding yourself with. You can't just pull out your gun and just flash it around unless you're threatened and you're in a situation that's completely different. But he's just not upholding like yeah, he's just not upholding his duties when he has a platform of being himself
But
and
and
being such
you know what
a
else?
caliber star.
Yeah, and you
Uh-huh.
know what else, bros? Like if there's other ways to show that people shouldn't fuck with you. Like Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves, I know never to fuck with Keanu Reeves because he posts all these videos of him doing all this military style training in the desert. Like you already know, like you see that shit and you're like, all right, bet. Like you're like that. I get it. That's cool.
I'm
Also,
good.
it's not in a thirsty way, right? Like the way Jaw does it is in a thirsty way, and it's weird. It's like weirdly thirsty to like try and prove
He
that
wants
you're
clout.
dangerous because he's not dangerous because he's scared. But realistically, if he were to like actually want to show that he's dangerous, he could just show how great of a shot he is at the range. Or he could go like there's hunting is in Tennessee. A lot of people go hunting. Like there's you could use guns in that
You
way
know,
and it would be totally
Ja's
fine.
actually Ja's actually a very dangerous dude. Have you ever seen him charge at another player that's like three times his size? And he just jumps over him and then tries to put it in regardless. He's a fearless dude. And
Yeah.
like that alone is enough to like not fuck with Ja. You don't need to go pull out your gun, bro. Like that's
No, but
unnecessary.
I'll
We
give you one
understand
more
you're about it.
example.
Like,
Y'all saw
uh-huh.
Zuckerberg just won a jujitsu tournament.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah.
He
I
won,
also
he
actually saw another video where he talked to the judge to get a rematch. So like the judge changed the score because Zuckerberg went and talked to him so he could get a rematch with the dude in another tournament. I don't think it's the same one that he
but
won,
still
but
though,
that was
like
just another tournament. But
that's
he's a
some
dog.
shit.
He's a dog.
Yeah, that's some shit. You see that?
Yeah,
Anyone sees that and they're like, okay, respect. Like you're like that.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
this isn't yeah, it's like this isn't this has nothing to do with all that. I think this is a young kid who's being adversely impacted by the content that he consumes and the culture that he himself is surrounding himself with. Because what's so unfortunate about this is that the NBA and even the NFL has driven a lot of this out of the league. NBA players don't surround themselves with this. You don't hear about um, gun violence or any of these issues that you heard about 15 to 20 years ago. And he's basically single handedly um, creating bad publicity and bringing a lot of those issues to light. And it's a reflection of him. But if he were to be honest, he's reflecting very poorly on the NBA community as a whole and the work that has been done um, to by the players, by the unions, by the teams to make sure that it's fan friendly and kid friendly. And I actually will applaud the Memphis Grizzlies if they suspend him for a whole season. I don't think they will because winning comes first always. But they'll do enough here. They'll suspend him 20 to 30 games. And
Yeah.
what's so funny about that, when you add up the number, you're talking about probably $15 million, 15 to $20 million between the suspension this year and the suspension next year. That's enough money to pay for armed security for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
You know,
The, and some, no doubt.
yeah, and I was listening to the Gilbert Arenas podcast, and he had like a really good solution that I just wanted to tell you guys and see if you had a reaction to it. But he said that Josh should basically go completely underground all summer. He should hire bodyguards, but only hire female bodyguards so that he doesn't come across like a thug. And he said the day before training camp, when they're doing media day, he should show up with all his braids shaved off with like a clean fade and a completely different look so that the whole narrative about him can flip.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's Gilbert Arenas. That's great entertainment value for sure.
yeah.
I mean, Gilbert Arenas kind of had some similar issues in his background that he's recovered, but I think John Morant did what he needed. Didn't he go to like some like sensitivity
Yeah,
training?
dude, he went to some bullshit. He went to like
I
a
don't know
fucking,
what.
he went to a rehab center. No,
Yeah,
I shit you not.
yeah.
He went to a
Yeah.
rehabilitation facility. And this dude still is doing the exact same shit. I'm honestly baffled. I'm baffled
That's why
because
it's you feel sad because you realize it's actually a behavioral psychological issue, a maturity,
right.
immaturity issue, that's
It
deeply
goes
rooted in
beyond,
something. That when
yeah.
things
Bro,
this illogical happen, it's something that's deeper than surface level. It's not just that
I
he's a
mean,
dummy.
he has some complex for sure where he feels
Yeah.
inferior to have to show his superiority. I assume.
there's
Like I don't
this
know. It's just an
there's this
assumption though.
there's this meme going around on Reddit. They're basically saying, "Dang, we lost the next two stars of the NBA to the two most American things in the world, obesity and guns, with Zion and Ja."
That is hilarious.
You know, that's actually super
And that,
funny.
yeah, it's it's hilarious. And even when you talk about it in the backdrop, in the landscape of the shit that's going on with the most recent shooting happening at the mall, like, dude, what is cool about waving a gun when you're
Right.
100 millionaire and what like you think it's gonna you get in a shootout and die like your entire
What's
family's
keep My question is
future is.
what's right. But like my question is what's keeping you there? What's keeping you in that like state of mind? Like what sorry, what pushed him there? Like I don't know how he went
That's
from like just
that's
having a
not even
life
what
that
gets me, bro.
like
If your
how
dad's
did he
courtside
start
for every single game and you're still able to do that same shit, what kind of relationship is going on there?
right?
Because
And that's the other
y'all
thing that's
y'all
so
all know our dads
It
would not let us
reflects
get away with that shit. Not
no,
even
no,
like
no,
one
no.
step that
No.
way.
I mean, and that's what's so contradictory about this because anybody that knows John Morant's backstory is that the reason he is the type of player he is because of
Because
the
of his
drill
dad.
sergeant techniques his dad
Yeah.
employed to train him and become. But now that he's got all this money and you've got courtside seats, you can't change who you are and treat your son differently. You still have to
Right.
treat him the exact same. But again, this isn't parenting. This isn't anything. We all saw the videos, um,
He's a
that
grown
came
man.
out. Even when John Morant was in high school, making some of these videos to some of these songs, kind of implying certain things. This is something, a behavior pattern that was probably developing in the background for a while. And I actually know another kid like this who grew up the same way. Went to a suburban school. Now is out of the NFL because once he made it to the NFL, he decided that that was who he wanted to embody, was something that he never was.
Tom
Um,
Brady.
and so that
No, just kidding.
It's something that's consistently happening, and it's a societal issue as much as anything else, right? Like, I saw another funny meme going around saying that the reason that Ja Morant is doing this is that the NRA is paying all his Miranda loss wages so that he can take. It wasn't a
Bring the
meme. I
guns
made that.
back. Bring him back, baby. Bring him back.
In full disclosure, that wasn't a meme. So I just didn't want to be
That's
unclear.
even
I
better.
didn't want
That
the
makes it
NRA.
better.
I didn't want the NRA.
You were like, let
They
me put
weren't
this out there
before.
and I'll say it's a meme, so if it's not funny, it's not on me.
Yes.
That's what you just did right
That was
Oh,
there.
perfect.
I
You
gotta call
employed
you
that
out for that.
perfectly.
yeah.
I
Like,
mean, hey, at least
I
he
knew it was
executed
funny
it
though.
well, you
Yeah.
know?
Uh,
That's so good.
yeah.
Well,
That
guys,
was a deep. That was deep right there.
I know. Anything else? Anything else we want to talk about while we're on, or are we at the end here?
I think we're coming to a close. I mean, two good Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals. Um, Very interesting that a 7 and 8 seed are in the conference finals. That's definitely amazing. Uh, Also, I mean, the last thing that I wanted to touch base on was that Doc Rivers is likely going to keep his job with the 76ers, while Mike Budenholzer, who has an NBA championship, and Monty Williams, who's actually made it to the finals in the last couple of years, are no longer employed by their teams.
Hey, bro,
Wow.
I don't
Doc
understand.
Doc has something because if he got fired here, I guarantee you he's the next Phoenix Suns head coach.
Yeah, dude,
Guarantee.
he definitely is just going. He's just gonna bounce around. He's not out of the league, that's for sure.
No, he
Like, I don't
Him
owns
and
know
it.
his
what
son.
ties he's got, but he's
He
got
did
ties. That's,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's keeping his son employed in the NBA too. You know,
He honestly shocks me because, yeah, he's got his son in the NBA. He's still somehow in the NBA, and like, he's not
isn't
even
his
good.
isn't
Like,
his daughter
what?
and his daughter is married to Seth Curry. Like he's figured it all
Whoa,
out.
whoa, whoa,
You
whoa,
know,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. Dog, I think this goes deeper than we think.
No, it does
I
because there
think
was a
this goes
beef.
deeper than we
There was a
think.
beef between before Seth Curry married her, she dated Paul George, and Paul George cheated on her
Oh.
with his current lady. And then there's beef between Austin Rivers and Paul George a few years back because of that.
Yeah,
And Seth
because he
Curry
cheated on
and
his
Paul
current wife.
George. Yeah, exactly.
Or,
So
yeah,
there's like a
yeah.
ton of drama
Wow.
around the Rivers family, and it's weird, and it's also like Doc Rivers, like even the tone he takes during his
How is he
interviews,
helped?
he comes across like, oh, like we lose all the time, I'm so annoyed with how much we lose, and I just don't even care anymore. Like that's his entire energy this year, and people are just like, let's keep this man. He's a great leader. Like what? What are we doing?
Like, hold
This
up.
is clearly not the energy of a champion.
No, not
yeah.
at all, bro. Not at all.
There's something going on there, I think, and 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 I really think that what the Suns did to Monty Williams was really messed up. It was not his fault at all. Like his
Yeah.
entire team, they first of all they traded the entire team for Kevin Durant. That was a GM front office decision,
That was the first mistake. That's
and
Dude,
then
you know what he did fail at though, which I think is the fair criticism, is that he never was able to get DeAndre Ayton aligned, and the organization didn't find a better value than him at that position in the opportunities that they had to go for it. And they weren't aggressive enough early on in his tenure to get him out when his value is higher than it is now. So I think like he kind of had a bad hand dealt to him, and I feel like his comments in the playoffs looked like he kind of threw up his hands, and it seemed like he almost like permanently burned his bridge with Aiton and made the organization choose.
yeah, there's always behind the scenes things that happen, especially with ownership changes.
Yeah.
Right. No, it seems like Ishbia is going to be one of those kind of annoying owners. Just you saw what he did to Jokic. I don't know much about him, but it seems like he's an overly aggressive and over. He really wants to be involved, and maybe he'll learn the way that the Kings owner learned that sometimes you have to let the basketball folks be the basketball folks, and you be the owner, and you hire the right people versus trying to dictate the decision making process. Because this is what happens with a lot of like ultra wealthy people, business people, and entrepreneurs. Just because you know how to make billions of dollars doesn't mean you know a sports organization. And I think that we'll see what happens with this ownership change. But even the trade for Kevin Durant, the type of value that they gave up, it just seemed like it was an ownership decision, just like this coaching fire. They said that he didn't like Monty Williams he was going to fire him if they didn't win a championship, regardless when he came in. It's not the type of coach he wanted um, for the team.
He wants
So
the Doc Rivers type, bro.
Dog, that's why he's about to go there, bro. Once he gets
Yeah.
fired here, he's about to slide over
ESPN
there.
came in and was like, "How
Like,
can we be more like Philly?"
yeah, or more like the Clippers.
more like the Clippers, dog. Nah.
He's like, "Let
Oh
me
my
try
God.
and mimic
Yeah.
everything that Steve Ballmer did."
Watch them hire Steve Nash, the Phoenix legend.
Oh my
I mean,
God,
Kevin
he's
dog.
not a
Durant,
bad coach. That would be a good move for the
Kevin
series.
Durant,
Kevin
Kevin
Durant,
Durant
though.
would be on the
Kevin,
Warriors in a week.
bro, Kevin Durant back on the works.
KD for
Kevin
Poole.
Durant, honestly, where do you guys think KD's gonna go next? Because we know he's not staying here. That's
Denver.
that's like
The Vegas odds are Denver.
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 Dude, did you see Denver? Did you see him? He's like already on vacation. I don't know if you guys saw this, but a fan
No.
spotted him on vacation like I think the day after the his final game. Like when the Suns lost, the next day this dude was
I
in
feel
like Cabo or some shit. Like he
I
was
feel
already
like
done. Like
here's one thing I will say: as much as people knock Kevin Durant for the Warriors thing and hate him for that, the one thing I won't do is shit on the guy's work ethic. He busts his ass at the game of basketball. He stays on the court practicing. He's built a great business empire. There are things that you can be critical of him, but there's nothing wrong with a guy who's busted his ass, been in rehab most of the season. When you lose a tough series, getting on a plane and going to Tampa. Now, if he
yeah,
was doing
yeah.
that before game in the middle of the series, then it's
That's different.
questionable. But I
I was,
think
I was
KD
just gonna
deserves
say it's
a vacation.
that's the difference between being able to charter your own jet and having to book a flight to Cabo. That's just what you're seeing, Sridhar, is wealth.
Right, right. You're right. You're absolutely correct.
That's
He's
just how
there because he's there,
rich
man.
people
Yup, he's rich.
plan. They don't
Yeah.
plan a trip. They
Nah,
just choose when they
they're
go
just
And
there.
somewhere.
Yeah.
and from Phoenix to Cabo is only
So
like a
funny.
2 hour flight, so
Yeah.
Okay,
fairly
yeah, you're
easy.
right. You're right.
No,
You're
it's
absolutely both of you are correct.
these guys are built
He's
different,
just
bro.
uber wealthy.
No, people just
Can't really complain. Can't really hate
people
on
will
him for that. Nah.
people will forever find reasons to hate him and criticize him just because of what he did going to the
You know,
Warriors.
I didn't
And
hate
then
him. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, okay, I kind of
You were
okay.
about to say I
I'm
didn't
not
hate
gonna
him
lie,
too.
I
That's
kind of hated
hilarious.
him for that. Like, dude, I hated him for that. Like, you kidding me? Like, he just, no, dude, I was not, I've never been more pissed
it was
than when Kevin Durant went to the fucking Warriors after they won. Nah, that was no, dude. And he left Russell, but it's okay that he left Russell. Okay, I'm not even mad that he left Russell. It
Russell.
was sad at the time, but like, but you know what gets my goat? What gets my goat is that he goes to literally the freaking Warriors. Like I just don't get it. Like you got Steph Curry, you got Clay, you got Draymond. Just take Draymond out of there. But like, just Steph Curry and Clay is enough for me to say that you don't belong there, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, go pick another team. Go build
Hey,
around yourself.
look.
Go build
but
with somebody else. But
they
like,
didn't
I mean,
win without him, bro. Like only one time
that's
after he played there, and he was the MVP both years he played there in the finals. Like they wouldn't have
That's
won
true.
those years without him.
Look,
That's
how
true.
is it how is it any different than what LeBron did with the Heat? How is it
I
any
mean,
different?
no,
How is it
you're not wrong. It just at the
It's just because
time
he
it
beat the
came, and
Cavs because you're a
since
Cavs fan. That's
exactly,
the
it
only
was the
reason.
sentiment. It was this the sentiment. I hated
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
I hated him to like my
Well,
bone. I
here,
couldn't. I couldn't. It's just because he beat
here,
the Cavs, man. Fuck.
here's the reason why that decision. Here's the reason why that decision really bothered me. Right,
Hmm.
is that the Oklahoma City Thunder were up 3-1 to the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. They lost mainly because KD choked
Yeah.
later in the series. And then you don't have the competitive energy to come back and say, oh, we're going to beat this team next year because you really had a team that was
Right.
up 3-1 on this exact team. And you could have made the finals with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
And that's what made it the least competitive decision I've ever seen from a
Right.
basketball player. But despite that, I will say this. I think that we as sports fans are way too hard on people sometimes because Katie had the right to make that decision and he made it. It was a
Right.
weak move competitively, but like Partha said, he got 2 rings out of it, the only 2 rings that he's had in his career. He tried to make the
Right.
decision to go to Brooklyn. Look at how that worked out. Look at what's happening in Phoenix. Look at what
And he
happened in
needed that.
Well,
he
and
Right.
you
needed.
got to think about the style of ball
Yeah.
he plays. Like, I think he had curiosity because the Warriors style of basketball is so different from anything he's ever played before.
Yeah.
So he wanted to experience what being on a winning team was like, and he's never really had that at that
Yeah.
level. And then if you look at the style of ball that he played in Brooklyn, like the reason he wanted to play with someone like Kyrie is because they just wanted one-on-one ISO possessions. Like these guys come from more of like a street ball kind of culture. Like they want to play,
Right.
just show how good they are at putting the ball in the basket. And then in the playoffs, they just want to be able to like will their team to a win. Like it's different players play for different reasons. So like I feel like from the basketball, like like the comparing players perspective, like his decision wasn't aligned with that. But if you think about it from the sense of a player, like okay, like there's a ceiling to the kind of play you're going to have with Russell Westbrook as your other guy, just because of the style of play Russell Westbrook has. Like for KD, who wants to be like that guy and wants to see how much better he can get to, like there's a definite ceiling with Westbrook because Westbrook was so ball dominant and still was like that was a big issue when he was with the Lakers too, right? And it just like didn't make sense, I think, for him to stay in that situation another year if he wanted to get better as a player. But I think he got a lot better as a player when he went to Golden State, and he got even better. I think he cemented his greatness that series, that first playoff run with Brooklyn when he was dropping like 45, 50 almost every single night. Like that's when the world said like this guy is that guy right now, and he wouldn't have
I mean,
gotten to that had he stayed.
he took the champion Milwaukee Bucks to 7 games and literally was if he wore a
One
size
shot.
11 shoe,
Yeah.
if he wore
Yeah.
a size
One
11 shoe,
shot.
it,
Literally.
it was literally this quarter of his foot was over the line
He would
Right.
have
that
won
made it a
that
two
year.
pointer.
He,
He hit the
yeah.
game winning shot.
Yeah.
It was just that his feet were too big, right?
No,
So
that's kind of ridiculous because I mean he had it. His feet weren't even too big is the funniest thing. It's his shoes that were too big around his feet. Cause his feet were probably still like within like how close it was. He was probably like that was a fair shot, fair three, but just didn't count just because he was
Yeah.
like
I
had his
think
shoe there.
I think
so
him
You're
going to
right.
Phoenix
Yeah.
is a good move because D Book's another one of those same types of players. But having
Yeah.
somebody like Chris Paul, who's kind of aging, can't handle the scoring load anymore, but still has the skill to facilitate the entire pace of a game. And Chris Paul has like a kind of like finesse about the way he moves the entire defense with the way he plays. Like as long as he can even be somewhat on the court, he's going to be a dangerous, dangerous piece alongside Katie and Devin Booker. So I think like it's a good move for KD if he wants to play championship level basketball, but the Suns really have to build their roster. Like they're completely gutted, and DeAndre Ayton is not the answer. They have to ship him for as many young assets as they can get that can be both ways kind of guys. They don't even have to score. They just have to be great defenders and great role players.
Right.
yeah, I mean, we think that's a good way to close the episode. I think it was important to have a objective conversation about KD. I do feel like he's a guy that gets continues to get a lot of uh,
Right.
negativity sent his way that I don't think he deserves. He made a decision almost 8, 9 years ago that yeah, you can question, but you can't question anything else about his character, his game, um, his business acumen. The only thing you can maybe criticize is his behavior on
Competitive
Twitter.
nature. And
Yeah.
yeah, his behavior on Twitter, even his competitive nature is on point. It's
He's
just
been pretty
that
funny
one
this year
move.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah,
I think he's
Yeah.
fully. I think he's fully like he's a guy that's very comfortable being who he is. You know what I
right.
mean? He does, and he doesn't even feel the need to get a haircut, which is
That's
Stop.
even
badass. Yeah, that's
He,
badass.
he yeah, dude, the memes are absolutely hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, but he is badass for it because he just embraces who he is,
Yeah.
and he doesn't give like
yeah. It's like
anyone that room. Like he completely like just owns himself, and that's fire. He
yeah.
doesn't
It's
care
like
at all.
he is the person that Kyrie needs to be from a personality type to really
Agreed.
be the person that Kyrie is. Like KD really doesn't give a fuck what you think about him. He doesn't have to
Right.
tell you he doesn't. He just doesn't.
Mhm.
And I think that
That's
that's
probably what
that's
drew Kyrie to him, to be honest, is like seeing
yeah,
like, oh, this guy
Yeah.
gets the same kind of treatment I do, but he seems to be happy still.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So on that note, let's see what happens in these conference finals.
Facts.
Looks like we're gonna see Celtics Nuggets unless you know the dark magic of Adam Silver and the NBA officials rears its ugly head. But
Adam Silver might need to do some alchemy to get the gold into the finals, you know what I mean? The purple
Yeah, I
and gold
mean,
into the
I
finals.
mean, you need those. I think LA Boston is going to draw the highest ratings, right? So
yeah.
the NBA needs a ratings champion.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think Celtics Lakers will also bring in um, a lot of the majority of American public who doesn't tune into basketball as much.
Right.
It could bring them back into the fold that they lost during the pandemic.
Yep. Well, on that
Absolutely.
note, that wraps us up. Thanks everybody for listening. Tune in next week for us to dive into how these series are going and talk about other news and notes and other topics. Pilot Boys out.
We out.